And welcome back. It's time for Opinion Court. You can get in touch with us on 22422, which is our SMS line. And if you're online, please use the hashtag Opinion Court. I'll introduce my guests to you as promised and mentioned earlier. Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter joins us alongside Kipkorir Menjo, who is a crusader for farmers' rights, and he's live in Eldoret. And of course, Edward Kisiangani, who's in studio with us as well tonight. And you're all welcome to the program. Alfred, let me start with you. I mean, you came out guns blazing today over the maize scandal, and you went as far as saying a majority of those who are seated in the cabinet, in the current cabinet, are crooks who should be behind bars. To whom were you referring to?
You see, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I want to say a few things. When you see the levels of corruption at the moment in the country, I was watching news. Item number 1, maize scandal. Item number 2, Kenya pipeline. Item number 3 is about youth fund. It is alarming. It is very unfortunate because some of these issues, we've talked about it for a long time. And I remember I raised these issues in 2014 and 2015 in the 11th Parliament. And it is not easy for anybody to fight the cartels. You've seen even the Songo story in City Hall. He's alleging that the majority of his problems that he's facing over his leadership is about the cartels. I want to say that majority of people in government and people who should not be anywhere close to leadership positions, because they are responsible for this. And I want to say that anytime you see a scandal, there are two things there. Either the leadership is involved or they are incompetent. In most cases, they are not incompetent. Because
you're saying in most cases they're involved, but do you have made such a bold allegation? Don't you owe the country a substantial answer, which is, to whom are you referring?
I mean majority of the cabinet.
Can you paint the entire cabinet with such a sweeping brush and not be able to substantiate?
You know, by the time you see scandals left, right, and center, it means the wall is the leadership is rotten. It is very unfortunate. Okay. But at least I said that I have confidence in His Excellency the President. I think he means well, and he's a clean person who really thinks we should not be in such kind of environment.
Yeah, but let's actually listen to what you said earlier today.
The cartels are running this country at the moment. The cartels are running this country. They are running parliament. They are not running the situations in ministries. And I want to call upon His Excellency the President, who means well. He is sober and focused. But majority of that cabinet are made of people who should be in committee maximum prison. Majority of them. We have a lot of criminals. And I want to say that, you know, criminals, we have to unite as a country. And I thank His Excellency, the President, and the Prime Minister for having thought of we should have an handshake so that we unite this country. Because most of these culprits, when they are now found with these issues, they run around and say, oh, my tribe, I'm being fought because I belong to a different tribe. We want to say all this, like when you see this situation of the maize scandal, the people who are managing National Cereals and Produce Board are from our tribe, the Kalenjin Nation. The farmers who lost are from our tribe. The traders who are used are from our tribe. The big fish are from our tribe. It is very unfortunate. So there is nothing tribal about this issue.
Again, who are the big fish?
They are known. They're in public domain already.
How are they in the public domain? You are a legislator. You cannot just make broad and sweeping statements without being willing to go the extra mile. If you know for certain these people have done something, don't you owe the country a greater responsibility to reveal it?
Let me tell you something. I think it is important we have independent institutions to do the investigation. And the moment we start mentioning names, it will be wrong. Let us allow the investigate institution to continue. But I know in most cases they have failed. But let me just allow them a little bit of time it is important for them to get to know. Let me tell you something, because most Kenyans are asking themselves questions like this. Where can if you see the NYS, where a young lady, a 30-year-old, is coming to say she did not tender, she was paid, whooping 60 million. It is not about her. It's about the names that are in the background. It is not about those people you see in most cases, because even to access a normal farmer, when you see like what we are discussing about the National Cereals and Produce Board, most big farmers who are known, who are doing over 3,000 acres, 4,000 acres, the names are always known to members of the public in the entire Uasin and Nandi. We know them, those who do up to 2,000, 3,000 acres of land, which will the ones who can supply up to 40,000, 30,000 bags. But you see, a young person of early 40s purporting to be supplying National Cereals and Produce Board 200,000 bags.
You're think that somebody has to be behind them.
There is someone.
Okay. You've also said in that statement that Parliament is run by cartels. So pretty much you do not believe that it's investigative arms, if you like, parliamentary committees and others would be able to get to the bottom of this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. In what way is Parliament being run by cartels?
You see, he talked about it last year. And you remember when the Honorable Tyrion succeeded in winning an election. He was elected by members to become a chair. And then there are people who made sure that some individuals who at least was cooked somewhere, so that to arrive at some people who did not even, who are not elected to chair the departmental committees, which are meant to oversight the national executive and public institutions. We said the cartels were the ones. Myself, I won an election as a chair of labor and social welfare, where even this NYS is under that departmental committee. We should have allowed Parliament to be independent, so that we arrive at a leadership that are so focused and they are ready to deliver as per the expectations of Kenya's the members of the public, because they're losing a lot of resources in terms of all this corruption. And Anne and Prof, there are so much money that we put into Parliament every year to ensure that it plays the role of oversighting the executive and other public institutions. We put about 28 billion every year. And
you're saying it's pretty much good.
So there is no value for the money.
Okay. Just a final question, even as I bring in Kipkorir Menjo and of course Edward Kisangani, who are with us this evening. You are not one who is averse to scandal yourself. I mean, just recently you've been in court with a case involving fraud. To those who say that you cannot be then the trusted, as it were, whistleblower in this matter, and that you're just playing politics, what do you say? When
you see, let me talk about it. It is a matter that is before courts. But I must say, it was a setup. Let me say this. You see, it is the governor himself who invited me to his office. You don't invite someone to go to go steal or redeem, to do a fraud in your office. He invited me to his office because there were Kenyans who came to me saying that we have correspondence with Central Bank, that they bought treasury bills and bonds in 1990 when I was in class 5. I
don't want us to debate what is in court, because it is in court, but I'm simply speaking to your credibility, if you like, in this matter. There are those who are saying you're playing politics.
I was invited. I wanted to
I'm afraid I don't want us to get into a matter that is already before the courts, for obvious reasons. So if you could just speak to your own, why Kenyans should trust you on this matter.
They should trust me because I've been very focused about anti-corruption issues from the day one in 2013. I was against any scandal. And when you see all these things that are being, you know, when corruption normally fights back. And every time when you try to be a whistleblower, there will be a lot of things that will be leveled against you. It takes a very strong person or a strong personality that is so courageous enough to sustain the war of the cartels. They have to fight you left, right, and center. But I'm an innocent person. That's why I'm still continuing with the pursuit for fairness in this country, to ensure that we have a Kenya that is free from corruption.
All right, let's bring into our conversation Kipkorir Menjo, who's our crusader for farmers' rights, and he's joining us live from Eldoret. You know, this isn't, of course, the first scandal surrounding the maize issue. You can go, I mean, there've been about 3 or so if you were to go back to around 2009. How exactly are these loopholes for graft exploited? What are you hearing from farmers, and what have you seen on the ground?
Yeah, thank you, Anne. What happens is that let's come to the recent incident of what happened last year. They brought in a lot of maize from Mexico and other places where they were able to secure white maize, which was required to top up the shortfall we had as a country. And what they did was the shortfall was supposed to have been about 5 million bags, and the importation was to stop around September, but they decided to change the dates up to the end of December, and you know, by end of December that was harvesting time in our region, and now it means when they were stopping the importation, already they had flooded the stores of millers with maize. Maybe go-downs also of the same businessmen were also full, and here the farmers were harvesting. So when cereals was open around January, or that was late December, the maize which was available in the market was already a cloth which was there. So when farmers were told to deliver their maize to cereal stores, already the stores were almost full. So come by January, the stores now were actually filled with maize, and they were wondering where all this maize came from, because they knew quite a big number of them had not even shelled their maize. Even as I speak now, a big number of them have their maize at home. So you can see most of them who delivered in around January have not been paid because the money was exhausted. The budget allocation which was there was exhausted, and so far most of them now have been harassed by the AFC personnel because they are going for their loans. The banks also are demanding their money, and you find that most of the farmers are totally disturbed because they cannot meet their financial obligations. I know some parents who have requested their children to defer their courses in the university. So those who are in high school, the children are having a rough time because they are sent home every now and then. So all this, you can see in a nutshell, is a big problem to the farming fraternity.
Let me ask you
and
this,
the problem is corruption.
Sorry if I may interject.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about something like the youth fund scandal, a lot of commentators would say to you that the manner in which the procurement system is done is almost in a way designed to aid that fraud. That's some of the commentary that we're hearing right now. And since this isn't the first time we're talking about this maize issue, would you say the same of the National Cereals and Produce Board as it is designed and as it operates? Does that lend itself to graft, or what have these scenarios revealed about the management of NCPB?
Yeah, and I think you are right in that comparison, because one, there was a policy paper which was meant to restructure NCPB so that it is now in tandem with the new ways of doing business in a liberalized market. And you know, as we talk, we also have a new constitution which has devolved agriculture. So it has to be made to be in tandem with the new programs. But I think there have been resistance in these reforms, and these loopholes which are always left open, it assists a few individuals to do this kind of mischief. So what you have said is quite in order.
Oh, okay.
And I hope as we move forward, we have to look for ways and means of correcting that anomaly. Otherwise, we cannot keep on repeating the same problem. I mean, doing things the same way, and we know the results will end up being the same way, coming out wrongly.
Prof, what do you think of this whole?
I think our brother Menjo is raising very fundamental issues, Anne. But you look at this maize scandal, and you understand that this is not the first one we have had. We even had a maize scandal of sorts in 2009, when members of the Prime Minister's office were accused of having colluded with some other government officials to mess up the importation of maize, and some were even selling maize at high prices, discriminating against those who could access the maize which was imported. There were all sorts of issues. That matter was never resolved, and up to now it has never been resolved properly. There is a back passing and so on. Then now you have seen, probably 7 years later, we have another scandal. What is critical here is that, Anne, our country is sick. It's one big patient who is terminally sick and is living on life support systems. We are not going to have a country in future with this kind of thing. Some action must be taken, because these guys keep on earning jobs in government. They keep rotating, being given certain responsibility. Yet, a lot of public resources go. The Mamamboka is the one suffering. I want to say this, that Mr. President, and because this is something that we must tell the President, he is our product now because he's our President. Mr. President, you are alone in fighting corruption in Kenya. Mr. President, you must take action, because what we are seeing now, you have nobody to help you. So you must do it alone. This is critical. He must look at it that way. And to do it that way, he must admit that there's one big patient called Kenya that requires medical attention. These guys are doing what you call economic sabotage. He must declare that Kenya has a national calamity called corruption. He must declare it so that he can be assisted, so that volunteer doctors can come to help us treat this. Because 5 years from now, we shall have a different scandal.
You think Kenya needs external help to...
It does, because the same people who are involved in corruption are the ones who wield power. They're the ones who control the police. They are the ones who control parliament. These guys, you could sack them from one end, but they will resurrect in another way. So the president is alone.
Do you think the government is showing signs of fighting it? I mean, if you think of the number of people who have been sent home, not just in this, we've seen also in the youth scandal, we've seen also in the NYS scandal. Is that for you forward movement? Alfred, you're really frowning. Probably not.
I think the president is in Israel, like he's saying, and he's the only soldier on that front in terms of fighting corruption, against corruption. I want to say that it is unfortunate that I'm a member of parliament where it is an institution that is almost collapsing. The speaker said in his own words last week that majority of members of parliament have no clue on what their role is. Some have no time for what they should do. The leadership in that parliament was not a product of members of parliament electing their people to run their departmental committees. It came from somewhere. So it is cartels who are controlling even the parliament before we move.
But you know, you work in parliament. A number of, we don't know the list. I was challenging you to name some people. Of course, the announcement over media was that the directors for Bungoma, Eldoret, Kitale had been sacked. So you know those names. I'm just asking you, are some of them your friends?
Which the directors of
parliamentarians?
Yeah, the guys who have been implicated in this maize scandal. They can be your friends even if you don't support their way of doing things. Are some of them?
Some not my friends. But I want to say this.
Yes, the reason why I'm raising this matter is that at our personal level, we can engage these people and tell them what they are doing is wrong.
Yeah.
And tell them, you are friends, but what you do is wrong. But if it's not going to happen, we must change direction. Because Anne is saying some people have been even arraigned in court, and they need to be punished, of course. But most of the guys who are being arraigned in court are just small people. The big people, you know, it's like when we were discussing the environmental crisis, Anne. You cannot go to Mount Elgon and cut a tree, Elgon teak or mer oak. A small person in the village, you can't do it. You will be shot dead. So it must be a big group. So that's why I'm saying that, Mr. President, you have just yourself. So even the people who are surrounding you at the senior most level, do away with them, because you are not going to ask for what.
Sorry, what do you mean by the president being alone and do away with them? And let me start with you, Alfred, because you said, and we saw earlier, you saying that some of the people involved in this, you know, they're from your community, they're from your region. The senior most politician from your region is the deputy president. Do you think that he has a role, a voice in curbing graft in this area?
I didn't say that.
You did. We could play that clip again.
I didn't mention any name.
I didn't say you mentioned the name. I said you said they come from your community. And I said the senior most politician from your community is the deputy president. Does he have a role to play
this
in
issue of
ending
National
corruption?
Cereals and Produce Board is a very unfortunate case. Because one thing that you must know, Anne, I'm not diverting you from that, but I want to raise this so that you understand the background. Why most members of parliament who mean well and they feel like those people should be supported are really feeling so bad. Most farmers, as we speak now, majority of their children are home. Because the genuine farmers who supplied National Cereals and Produce Board, none of them was paid. It's only the criminals who are paid. Coming from that background, and you see now the management, and I have talked about now the people who have been protecting this. And I remember when Honorable Tiren raised this issue about we have, and you see this is a scandal on two fronts. This maize that is being supplied now to National Cereals and Produce Board was imported using a zero-rated approach, government approach, which was meant to check on the food insecurity. Now, the same maize, which was a benefit of taxpayers' money, because when you make it zero-rated, we are losing tax. Now it was applied with attracting a new price, a subsidized price that was to promote farmers.
But the point I'm trying to get to, because you're skirting the issue, is this, that when it comes to maize, I mean, this is happening in the country's grain basket, predominantly in the Rift Valley region, and you yourself have said it's predominantly your community. So I am wondering what leadership role can be played in reining in on your own people who, as you said, are affecting your own people's well-being in terms of the farmers that you're talking about.
You see, that is why I was saying we need the president to intervene on this matter, because now that approach.
I think you have answered. You are saying there is nobody who can take up leadership. Probably yourself, but many people in the Rift Valley, the leadership of the Rift Valley doesn't seem to have the clause to deal with the problem. So that's why you are calling on the president. But that is very bad.
And before I mention that, Professor,
yes,
you must remember, Prof. and Anne, this issue has been in public domain down there for 6 months. Farmers agitating for their pay for a period of more than 5 months. No one seems to be concerned. It's only a few members of parliament, Honorable Cholei, Honorable Tiren, and Professor Kamar, and Honorable Sudi. Very few of them have been discussing that. The majority are silent. Some of them are advising the people, don't discuss this thing. Or some were even telling some farmers, don't show demonstrations about this issue, because it's a sensitive issue. But you see, I think the institutions that are concerned with the investigation must roll immediately, so that we get the real culprits. Because the names that are being mentioned here, when you see they mentioned some names, that they supply 220,000 bags as an individual, it is impossible. You know those are how many lorries? So many lorries. For you to get access, and again succeeding in being paid on time at the expense of all those farmers in the North Rift, you must be a serious person who has a lot of...
let's return to Menjo, Prof. Just hold your horses. Menjo, if you're still with us, I want to return you to the issue of a system designed, as it were, to aid graft. If that be the case, how would then NCPB be restructured post hopefully, substantial conclusion to this probe that would seal those loopholes?
Yeah, thank you, Anne, and Prof, and Mheshimiwa Cartel. First of all, before even I come to that, there is one thing which was raised by Prof, and that is the small fishes who are likely to be crucified. When the queues were long and the payment was not forthcoming in the cereals, some of the farmers decided to sell their produce on the queue, because you say when they stay longer on the queue, they pay for the truck, they pay the convoy, they pay the drivers of those vehicles, and they end up losing a lot. So when they sell, you get the farmers or some of the traders also coming in to buy them out on the queue, because they want to sort out their immediate financial needs, like children going to school, or maybe they have a patient in the hospital and they want to sort out those bills. So you get quite a number of those who are being accused now are the people who bought maize from their fellow farmers on the queue. And there's no way those ones now can be termed as cartels, because the maize they bought are from fellow farmers and they never change the equation on the queue. The worst ones, who are the people who should be focused on, are the ones who brought maize under the subsidy program, and they ended up bringing that maize again to sell to cereals, denying the genuine farmers the opportunity for their maize to be to be paid by the NCBB. So as it is, you can see we are likely to be getting, to be arresting the people who did small business on the queue, but the real ones who took billions, you will find that they will not be easily captured in this web.
Right.
And as we speak, what we can do is to have another forum where we can have a list of actually those ones who bought maize on the queue, and they'll be able to understand what's happening.
Fair enough, but if you would,
Coming to the issue of tightening the loopholes.
Yes.
Yeah, the loopholes which are there. There are 2 or 3 reports, because there was some task force report which was carried out on how to go forward within the new liberalized market on the issue of NCBP. But when that one came up, it was shelved. And it is important we go back to those task force reports to review which one will be suitable for the current situation. And also, I think it is important we rope in the governors so that they will assist us, since the farming is actually done in their backyards. And one key group which should always be involved is the cooperatives. Cooperatives are all dotted all over the county, and these are well-organized groups. In fact, when they want any fertilizer, they can be purchased from cereals and carried to them direct. And this will eliminate the cartels in the middle, or the small brokers who always come between the cereals and the farmers. So we strengthen the cooperative movement, vet the cooperatives, because people know themselves at the village level. There's no way an outsider can come to the village and claim that he has more acreage than the others, and people know the chief is aware of the size of your farm, the ward administrator, the gradual extension of that. So all these will be sorted out. Right.
Finally, and briefly, sir, if you would, what happens now to these farmers who are defaulting on loans, who have not been able to sell? What happens to them now?
It is a serious, and it is a very serious challenge, because as I speak now, there are quite a number of them also who fall sick, because they are under pressure when they see the vehicles with blue number plates moving to their compounds. They always have a lot of problems. In fact, at some stage, sometimes everywhere, I remember we lost one or 2 traders who lost the goods to auctioneers when they came calling, because some of them took loans to purchase the grain, and then the same grain was taken to one of the millers, and the miller was unable to pay the farmers or the traders who had delivered the produce. So the time elapsed, and the banks came knocking, and when they saw the vehicles being towed away, one of them collapsed, and unfortunately we lost that trader. And as we speak, you have also seen somewhere that the same millers, some of them have not been given their subsidy by the government. I think they are still owed about how much? About 2.6 billion. And you can see this is a very big challenge, and it is important some of these things are really investigated so that they sort out once and for all. And we also ensure we make the requisite changes so that we seal the loopholes. Otherwise, as we speak, we can always be going around in a circus, going around, always having demonstrations the way we do, and we are accused, we are vilified by the same leaders who should be assisting us. Because I've realized when you see leaders accusing you, then you realize that actually in our system, as Honorable Cartel is saying, we are more dealers than leaders in the system.
Wow, that is... What a note to end it on. More dealers than leaders. Kateri, just in about 30 seconds, specific action that you would want the president to take, especially in respect of the farmers who right now are facing such uncertainty.
We want to get to know who was paid and where is the money. Because when you're paid 650 million, that's not a small amount. We want central bank to use the money laundering schemes to get to understand who eventually benefited from the money. That is the most important thing. You see, one last thing, all these scandals you are seeing at the moment, these are issues that we've raised for so many years. This maize scandal is not just coming from the blues, like the way Professor has already raised. It's about 10 years ago when we talked about it. Unless the president comes strong and gives hope to Kenyans, most farmers, as we speak now, are going under a lot of pressure and depression because they are losing. Some of them are borrowed loans, and now they have no money to go back to the farms. And that is the only sure way we can ensure that we have a food secure country, if we allow farmers to produce and we support them. Thank you.
Prof, what you said the president should clean up. What do you mean specifically by that, and what action can he take in respect to the farmers? Can he unilaterally decide that this maize is bought, that farmers are paid? What do you think?
The president needs to call a meeting with the judiciary and the investigative authorities and give new instructions, because some of these things affect his
big four.
The four-way agenda that he has given us, manufacturing, industry, Medicare, and so on. So there are many things. So he calls them and gives new instructions. But more importantly, because they touch on his four-way agenda, he must probably make all these ministries that deal with these four agendas and bring them under his office, so that he takes over personal responsibility. He takes over and starts directing the proceedings to make sure that the money, those who are not paid, he requests Parliament to appropriate some money to make sure that these farmers are paid. And he should not listen to anybody, because he has tried to delegate responsibility to his people, his officials, but all they do is they let him down. So he must take over any ministry that deals with the four-way agenda. And then those who are promoting the economies of other countries like Uganda, if you buy maize there at subsidized prices and then you start promoting, you are the greatest enemy of our republic. And the president should just state as such and say, we do not want you, we don't need you here.
Persona non grata.
Persona non grata, they should go to jail, because these are people who have destroyed our country, and a lot of misery is going to visit our future generation because of these people. They should never live here to enjoy their wealth.
More brokers than leaders. I can't get away from that quote. Thank you all who've been part of this program. Nandi Hills MP, Alfred Keter, Kipkori Menjo, who joined us from Eldoret. He's a crusader for farmers' rights. And of course, Edward Kisengani, our resident analyst. That's our time. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night and God bless.